Hello, everybody. Welcome to my podcast, Find Your Flourish. I'm Rabbi Avrohom Jax, and I am the CEO or Chief Encouragement Officer of this podcast. So I want to talk a little bit about what I want for the podcast. What is my vision for this podcast? I have eclectic interests. I am passionate about my Judaism, about my spirituality. I'm also an MBA and really love the business of business. I have lots of clients who I coach, who are business owners and executives, and it's very edifying for me to be able to engage with these people, to help them scale their businesses, and introduce AI into the business and the efficiencies and advantages that AI brings into the business. And then I am fascinated by self-growth, by the self-improvement industry. And I try and read a lot about all three of my passions. And I'm hoping that as we go together on this journey of our podcast, I'm hoping that I can bring these three interests together and bring guests in and speak to you myself and share some of my thoughts and the thoughts of my guests and help you find your flourish. So I'm going to share a tool with you, which is a tool that I've found very helpful in my life. This tool is actually based on a Kabbalistic teaching. The Kabbalistic teaching is that our thoughts are called garments. Now, the Kabbalists, the mystics, compare thought to garments for many reasons. One of the very intriguing reasons for why they make this comparison is that a garment is not something that's fixed. I could have a whole closet, and in that closet, I could have various garments. And today, if it's raining, I can put on a certain garment, and then I can change that garment when the sun comes out and put on another garment, which is another item of clothing, which is more suited to the sun. And these garments change. Well, our thoughts can change as well. You see, we all many of us make a fundamental mistake. And that is that we think that our thoughts are us. But really, our thoughts come from our brain. And our brain is a garment that can be that we can change it if we don't like it. So what I tell if I'm feeling really anxious about something, what I will tell my brain is, hey, brain, please bring me some more joyful thoughts. And it's such a crazy reset interrupter. You just say, brain, can't you do better? Surely there's a better thought you could bring me, a more encouraging thought that you could bring me. And it's crazy because if your brain is starting to ruminate over something and it's starting to obsess over something and you're starting to get really, really nervous about something, just tell your brain, no, that's not serving me anymore. Go away and bring me something better. And it's crazy how that works. A little variation of this, which I like to use, is another tool, is also really interesting. And that's called the Stop, Breathe, Be tool. And this is how it goes. Let's say you're feeling anxious. Let's say you're feeling afraid about something. You're worrying about something. There's fear. And you find that it's holding you back or it's robbing you of the quality of your life. All you do is, if you're alone, you can do this aloud. If you're with other people, don't do it aloud. Just do it in your head. You'll see why in a moment. Just stamp your foot down and say, stop. And then say, breathe. And you take a deep breath in and you breathe out and you feel like you're letting all the stress out as you breathe slowly out. Then you say, be, as in be present. It's amazing. It takes about 5 to 8 seconds. You can do it multiple times in the day. When I started this, when I heard about this tool and I saw how much it can release stress in an instant and just be a really cool reset, I put some Post-it notes on my computer screen and in some other areas that I would see them prominently. And it just said, stop, breathe, be. And it reminded me to do this a dozen or so times during the day. And at the end of a day, I felt that I had more energy, I was less stressed, It's a really powerful tool. So don't look at your brain as being part of who you are. Your brain is something independent, and you can control it. You can decide what you're going to let in and what you're not. There was a person who came to the Maggid of Mezrich, who was a very great mystic and Jewish leader. And he came to the Maggid and he said to the Maggid, I'm having trouble with my thoughts. I'm obsessing over thoughts that are unhealthy, and I want to change that. So the Maggid said, go to Reb Zusha of Anapoli. He will help you with this problem. So the man is very excited. He figures Reb Zusha is going to be the cure. He travels to Reb Zusha. And in those days, that was no mean feat. Traveling wasn't just, getting onto an airplane and a few hours later being at your destination. Traveling in those days could be many weeks by foot. And this man traveled by foot many weeks, and he got to Reb Zusha's house, and he knocks on the door, and nobody answers. Now it's a cold winter night, there's a blizzard, the snow is falling, and the traveler is weary and cold. So he knocks louder, and he sees there's people in the house. He hears movement. He knows that there's people there, but he's outside, and he's feeling cold and really dejected, and it takes a long time before the door is opened and he's let into the home. And he spends some time with Reb Zusha, and it's obviously very inspiring to be in the company of such a great mystic as Reb Zusha. But after time passes, Reb Zusha asks the man, why did you come here? And he says, well, I was sent by our Rebbe, by our teacher. I was sent by the Maggid of Mezrich. And he said, well, why did the Maggid send you to me? And he answers, the Maggid wanted me to learn from you how you can control your thoughts. And Reb Zusha said, but didn't I teach you that right in the beginning when you showed up at my door? You showed up at my door, you knocked on the door, and I didn't let you in. It's the same with thoughts. When they knock at your door and they want to be let in, you are the boss of your home. You decide what you're going to let into your brain and what you're not. So if we would let in positivity into our lives, joy into our lives, and focus on that, we would have a better, more interesting life. Let me tell you about a time that I went to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker, and he came a few years ago to Toronto. And I bought a ticket. It was a very intimate crowd of about 15,000 people. I was one of them. And at one point, Tony said the following. He said, okay, I'm going to test everybody's memory. You ready for a memory test? Now, I'm very competitive, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to ace this test, right? I didn't even know what it was, but I was for sure going to ace this test because of my competitive nature. So he said, look around the room. I want everybody to look around the room, and I want you to see the color red. And I want you to see items that are in the color red, and I want you to memorize as many items in the color red. And Tony said that he's going to give us 60 seconds to memorize as many items that are red. So I'm being my competitive self, I'm looking around the room and I'm searching for red, and I'm doing memory tricks and everything to try and remember as many of them as possible in the 60 seconds we had. And then Tony asked us to close our eyes. Everybody closes their eyes, me included. And he's going to, I anticipate that he's going to tell us, okay, now list all the things you remember in the color red. But what Tony says is, okay, now list all the things that you remember in the color blue. And I go, oh my goodness, blue. I couldn't think of a single thing in the room that was the color blue. And then Tony puts us out of his agony, and he says, open your eyes and look around. And you open your eyes, and let me tell you, there's a sea of blue everywhere you look. So what Tony was doing is he was priming something in our brain, a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system is a small piece of your brain. It's about the size of a pencil eraser on the end of a pencil, and it's buried deep inside your brain. And that reticular activating system is so, its primary function is actually to block things out of your brain, not to let things in. Because we are bombarded through our senses, through our sight, touch, taste. We're bombarded by 11 million bits of information every single day. And that is overwhelming. if our brain would have to process all that information, we'd be totally overwhelmed. So comes along the reticular activating system, the RAS as it's called, and the reticular activating system is primed to let certain things into your mind and block other things from coming into your mind. So how does it block things? So what type of things does it let into your mind, at least? It lets those things that are important to you and to your safety. So I'm sure you've experienced the following. Let's say you're at a party, and let's say there's about an event that there's about 100 people at that event. And you're in one corner and you're speaking to 2 or 3 people, a small little group, and you're totally engrossed in that conversation. And suddenly somebody from the other side of the room mentions your name. Now, your name is the most important word in the English language. So when somebody mentions your name, your reticular activating system is like, this is important information, I'm going to let this in. So even though you had no conscious awareness of that conversation that was going on in the other side of the room, all of a sudden you hear your name, and that conversation, you're suddenly focused on that conversation. That's your reticular activating system. So what Tony was doing is he was priming our RAS, our RAS, he was priming it to see the color red, and it was blocking out the color blue. And then when we closed our eyes and he said blue, so now he had primed it to see blue, we opened our eyes, we see blue everywhere. This is why if you would buy a pink Tesla today, the moment you drive that pink Tesla off the lot, you will see a number of other pink Teslas on the road. Now, the population of pink Teslas did not increase with more than the one that you bought, but you are now primed to see that model and color of car. So therefore, and this is how the RAS works. Now, here's the cool thing. You can use the RAS to your advantage, or it could be used to your disadvantage. You could prime the RAS to see things that you wanted to see. So if you look at the world and you see things that are positive and edifying, then that is, you're going to see those more of those things. If you write down your goals, you are priming your RAS to achieve and accomplish those goals. So when you write down your goals, when you write a gratitude journal and you focus on things that are delightful in your life, things that are joyful in your life, things that you love about your life, when you do that, then your RAS will see more of those. So you'll have more to be grateful for. And this is the wonderful ability that we humans have of opening ourselves up to seeing things and having thoughts that are edifying and helpful and that support us. Of course, the opposite is true as well. And that means that when we look at the news, and the function of the news is to attract eyeballs, and the way that they do that is by explaining how fearful the world is and how dangerous the world is. So that attracts more eyeballs, and that helps the news do better with their shareholders. And so therefore, but what it's doing to you is that it's priming your RAS to see the negativity that exists in the world. So I think let's be intentional and conscious together. Let's try and prime our RAS to see things in a way that is positive, in a way that is joyful, in a way that we see the things in our life that we could be grateful for. And then you know what happens? That becomes your reality. I'm Avrohom Jax. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I look forward to spending time with you again in the future. And I hope that you find your flourish.